Hello, this is Brian. Today is Saturday, August 21st, 2021. It's about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and after driving and hiking, I finally found a specimen to do a spotlight on shrubs today. Today's spotlight on shrubs is on the desert almond. So today's spotlight is on Prunus fasciculata, variety fasciculata, the desert almond. Where we are, we're at about an elevation of 6,300, 6,400 feet, roughly between that. We are in the San Gabriel Mountains, the Angeles National Forest in eastern Los Angeles County. Again, this is Angeles Crest Hwy. The town of Wrightwood is just down the hill a short distance, not even a mile from here. And so the name of this plant, the common name, is desert almond. So it doesn't look very desert-like over here. On that side, we're full of Jeffrey pine, white fir, sugar pine. Over here, we got single-leaf pinyon. So it's not very desert-like over here. Well, desert's only one. High desert is only one of the habitats where this shrub grows. It grows from, I believe, I want to say 4,000 feet up to about 7,000 feet, maybe 7,000 feet. I don't know the full elevational range, but I have seen it very extensively between 5,500 and 6,500 feet. So the desert almond is actually, as the name actually implies, it is actually this time related to those stone fruits like the peaches, cherries, apricots, plums, and almonds. It's in the genus Prunus, so it is related to those fruits that are commonly found in our produce sections in our grocery stores, and sometimes people's orchards in their backyards. So what's different about this one? Well, this plant is usually a small to quite medium-sized shrub. Some of these look like they're maybe about 6 feet tall. These are actually some quite decent sized specimens that I have seen. I've seen them as low as like 1 foot. Sometimes they'll be really small in really stunted areas. And they grow in habitats ranging from pinyon juniper woodland, so higher deserts, Joshua tree woodland, and also up into oak woodland, and even in, occasionally found in conifer forest, sometimes with the Jeffrey pines. This shrub is actually quite common here in the Wrightwood area. It's very common, actually. Actually, in the town of Wrightwood, you'll drive down residential streets and you'll actually find this shrub growing in people's yards. It's very common and it's very widespread in this area. So, going back to that name, almond, it's because it has a stone fruit like the garden almond, Prunus dulcis, and it's quite closely related, as you can tell. This year did not seem to be a very good fruiting year for this species, unless they already fruited earlier and everything was already chopped off. I do apologize about the traffic. Where I was hiking earlier, I didn't really come across this a lot, and I wanted to get some kind of spotlight video in today. I do apologize if the traffic is a little distracting. But in the springtime, you can tell that this plant is related by what it does. It shows these little creamy colored 5-petal flowers that are similar but much smaller than your orchard almonds. They're about 5-petaled, kind of creamy color in usually in early to mid-spring. depending on your elevation. And then after that, they develop these little stone fruits, which are structurally quite similar to almonds. Like I said, there are not many of them on this plant. I'm going to try to see if I can find them. I know I saw one or two before I started filming the Spotlight episode. Let's see. I know I saw one or two. I saw one or two on one of these shrubs. Just wanted to get footage of it. Bear with me. So as I'm looking for the fruit, I want to talk about the other characteristics, the other salient features of this plant. As you can see, the leaves are very narrow and they come bundled along the stem. You see here. You can see here they have these little spurs, these little miniature spurs where the leaves are bundled and fascicled together, hence the name fasciculata. Again, Prunus fasciculata, variety fasciculata. So the leaves are very narrow, and like a large chunk of the genus Prunus, the leaves are shed in fall, and the shrub is leafless through the winter months. So it's a winter deciduous shrub, and like the garden almond, it's a member of the rose family, the Rosaceae. So let's see, I think I might have found something here. Let's see. Where did I see it? I apologize if this is a little tedious to watch, because trying to find where I thought I saw a drupe. The fruit is a drupe, like a cherry, an almond, an apricot. So the fruit is a drupe. It's got a little hard pit, but it's really, really, really small. Very, very small. So sometimes you kind of have to hunt around to find them. And I'm really having bad luck with this today. Usually you'll see the fruits on these plants during they'll start developing later on in the spring, and then they usually ripen towards summer. I want to say summer, maybe early fall. But as you can see, as I'm still looking for the fruit, let's talk about the structure of the plant. It's kind of a small, like I said, usually small to medium-sized shrub. Kind of got wiry branches. Not really super extremely thorny, but the tips of some of the twigs are a little hard, so it might be kind of irritating if you have to bushwhack through this plant. But usually the plant grows fairly in wide open colonies. As you can see here, if I were to start climbing this hill, all I'd have to do is just look for the space between the shrubs, because these usually don't form extremely dense stands and thickets. And then we do have some interesting morphology of the bark. So, being that it's a member of the genus Prunus, you can see here, the bark is actually quite polymorphic, but it's very similar to what cherry bark looks like. Again, cherries are in the genus Prunus, so they're related. So some of the bark here is kind of reddish. Some of the branches are quite reddish in color, with these little quirky lines called lenticels. That's very common in the genus Prunus. And then there are some that actually have more of a gray bark. You see kind of in here, the bark is gray and it's slightly peeling. Slightly peels a little bit. So there's a little bit of a polymorphic trunk structure of this plant. Then again, you can also, if you look carefully enough, you see the little tiny horizontal lines. Those are the lenticels. So again, it can be quite common here in Southern California, and you can expect to find it mostly on the transmontane side of our mountain ranges. I've seen this in the San Bernardino Mountains as well, and in the higher portions of the desert. So Where we are is kind of a transition between the main montane forest and the pinyon juniper woodland as we head towards the edge of the Mojave Desert. So again, this is more of a transmontane species. In other words, you're really, not that I know of, you're not gonna really find it on the coastal side of the mountains. It likes more of an arid exposure and drier air. And you may be looking across the valley here, looking across Swarthout Valley and looking how lush it is with oaks and pines and cedars and firs. But it's because of the slope aspect. Much moisture on that side. That's a north-facing slope right there. This is a south-facing slope, and that's where you're most likely going to find this species. And again, fascicled leaves. They shed off in the fall, like a lot of other species. Not all species of Prunus are winter deciduous. So these plants are leafless in the winter, and they might occasionally get some slight fall coloration, maybe little hints of yellowish, maybe some brownish. I've seen them where they might get some slight coloration, but I wouldn't expect brilliant reds and purples and oranges from this plant. Usually, for the most part, I believe the leaves generally shed off while the green kind of dulls in color, and then generally the leaf epsizes. So again, this is Prunus fasciculata, variety fasciculata. I'm going to do one last ditch effort to find a fruit so I can show you what it looks like. I'm really hoping. Because I've seen these plants with fruit on them in mid-September. I've seen it before. They still had some fruit on them. But that was after a really rainy winter and spring. We're in a drought right now, so I wouldn't expect that these probably fruited too much. Okay, well, one thing about the fruit is, I said, it is tiny, really tiny, sometimes not even, sometimes barely even noticeable. It's roughly the shape of an extremely tiny almond. And it has a hard pit like the other stone fruits and the other members of the genus Prunus. So here we have it. Prunus fasciculata, variety fasciculata, the desert almond. Actually quite a neat looking shrub. I actually have two of these growing at home. Two really small ones. They have the real narrow leaves. They're actually fascicled. Now, you'll notice sometimes you'll get these real vigorous shoots like this. Sometimes a twig will grow really fast, or a branch will grow really fast. Usually these shrubs are really not super fast growing, but they do have the potential to occasionally put out some beastie growth, and you get these real vigorous shoots. And again, some of the leaves are still fascicled, but then some of the leaves towards the top are actually singular. So there you have it. Prunus fasciculata, variety fasciculata, desert almond. And let's see if I can find any dried fruit on this plant before saying goodbye. So it'll give you a chance to kind of look at the architecture of the shrub while I poke around a little bit more. Well, I guess I'm not going to be lucky finding fruits today. Well, that'll do it for this episode of Spotlight on Shrubs. I hope you enjoyed it, and hope this helps you be able to identify our native flora here in Southern California. It's an interesting shrub, and I do believe if you give it well well-draining soil, you might be able to make it amenable to cultivation, if you're so inclined like I am. Well, thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next episode of Spotlight on plants. Thanks for watching.